what is conformity and how is psychology involved in understanding how individuals get influenced by groups and group conformity? This is what we're going to look at on today's episode of GetPsyched. Guys, welcome to another episode of GetPsyched, and today we're going to be looking at the psychology of conformity. Now, the psychology of is a little mini-series that I'm going to be running on GetPsyched. I'm really interested to know what you guys would like me to look at. You can comment on the videos, you can contact me through Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, my Facebook page, you can contact me through my website as well. But for now, let's get into the video. Conformity is basically when an individual has a certain set of beliefs and attitudes towards something, but they're changed by what a larger group perceives. The influences of the perception and beliefs of this bigger group can really have a massive impact on the individual to change their beliefs and attitudes. So why do we conform to bigger groups? Well, it can have a lot to do with influences such as bullying, as peer pressure. It can even have a lot to do with criticism as well. But fundamentally, conformity comes about due to the desires of the individual in question. For example, that individual might just want to fit in, they might want to be seen as right, or they might want to establish a social identity that's connected with that larger group. The study of conformity has been going on in psychology for nearly 100 years. Jeunesse, I hope I've said that name right, in 1932 was the first psychologist to look at conformity. Jeunesse conducted a study of participants on their own, and they were asked to establish how many beans were in a jar that was put in front of them. These participants were then brought into a larger group and asked to come to a consensus of the number of beans that were in the jar. The participants were then brought out of the larger group and into a room by themselves again, and they were asked if they'd like to stick with their original assumption of how many beans were in the jar, or if they would like to change their assumption closer to that of which the group had come to a consensus of. Almost all of the participants involved changed their original estimate to something closer to what the group had suggested. This was really the first study to show how conformity can have an influence on the individual and how it can change the perceptions of the individual. However, perhaps the most famous experiment on conformity was that of Solomon Asch in 1951 with the line experiment. Asch's study consisted of one participant who was an unsuspecting participant that was in a larger group made up of actors. Now, that unsuspecting participant thought everybody else was a participant in the group also. The experiment consisted of the group being asked to establish which line was larger. They were shown 3 lines and they were given a separate line that was the same size as one of those 3 lines. Now, the participants in the group who were actually actors were asked to give the intentionally wrong answer. I'm putting up a little example here that you might be able to see on the screen to show just how obvious the answer is. It might take you a couple of seconds to get it, but you can see that there is one line that's definitely the exact same size as the line that stands on its own. Now, even though the group were clearly wrong in the decision, it was often the case that the individual who was the unsuspecting participant went along and agreed with the group. From the example that I'm showing you, that's basically like saying that that individual line that stands on its own is the same length as the longest line of the 3 that you can see here. Now, to me, saying that to you, that might seem a bit ridiculous, but it just shows you the power of conformity from a larger group on the individual. Now, when the study was finished and the unsuspecting participant was told of the true nature of the study and that everybody else in the group were actors, they more often than not said that they actually didn't agree with the group but went along with them anyway. Asch established that there were 2 main reasons for this. The first was that they wanted to fit in with the majority of the group, and the second was that they believed that the group was in some way better informed than they were. Again, this might strike you as odd to understand how a group could be better informed about the length of a line than you are, but again, it just shows you the power of conformity. It's really evident from these studies that conformity is hugely powerful, and in today's turbulent world of political regimes and equal rights campaigns, it's easy to see how people can get swamped up in the masses of other groups. One thing that I find really interesting about the psychology of conformity and the study of conformity is a follow-up study that Asch did on his line experiment. Asch conducted the exact same study where he had a group of actors who were perceived participants, and he had one unsuspecting participant, but in that group of actors he planted a confederate. That basically means that individual actor had a set regime or a task given by Asch to perform in the group. This confederate's job was to be vocal in their opposition to what the group was saying. But when the group gave the wrong answer, this confederate would be very vocal in saying what they actually believed. They would point out the fact that they thought the group was wrong and point to the correct answer. What's interesting is that this was enough for the unsuspecting participant to go along with the confederate and give the right answer. What we can draw from this is that all it really takes is for one person to stand up against the crowd, say what they think is right, and to vocalize their true opinion to break conformity. And again, when you think of this in today's world, all it can take sometimes is for one individual to stand up against the group for conformity to break. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed our first video of the psychology of. Today we've been looking at the psychology of conformity, and I hope this has given you quite a bit to think about. You guys can follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and make sure to check out my website, frasersmithcounselingsci.com. You'll see my written blog, you'll see updates on GetPsyched, and you can have a look at my CV as well. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you soon.